Hello, this is Shadow of the Moon, and today I'm going to be doing a deck profile on a deck I actually haven't shown you yet. I'm going to be showcasing my Mist Valley deck profile of August 2021, and the reason I've never shown this deck off is actually I hadn't actually had it. Long story, I've had this deck for almost as long as Black Wings, and it has went through many different makeovers and changes, facelifts. It was originally just a regular Mist Valley deck, and then because of the archetype not really receiving any support, it became a Harpy Valley, and then after that it was a Gen X Valley. And so you'll see some of the Gen X Valley cards still in there because I still like it, to be in there like in the extra deck because they do still work somewhat. But you do not have to have those in there. You can replace them with Zeus, you can replace them with Utopia Double, you can replace them with pretty much any other extra deck card that you want. This is just my personal preference and more of like a budget-friendly version of it, so that way you can actually get a hold of it and get the hang of it. And Mist Valley has been around for a very long time, since 5Ds, and it was part of a series in Dual Terminal, which was a video game that didn't take off over here really in the US that much. It was a machine that you could go to like a local store, convenience store, whatever, and it was a game that you could actually play Yu-Gi-Oh on, where you would have your own dual terminal deck and you could battle against the computer on there and everything, and battle against the machine like as an arcade machine, and it was really cool. And just a lot of the archetypes like Dragoonides, obviously Mist Valley, and a bunch of other archetypes had came out, and I think that this would have probably some of the best lore, just because you could tell they really worked hard on it. And sadly, Mist Valley didn't really get a lot of support after its release, which is why it went through a lot of facelifts and everything. But I am happy because I actually had checked the deck profile, and I had checked actually lists recently of a lot of ways to build a Mist Valley deck, and it finally came down that, hey, I can actually build this deck again, and it actually is going to be good. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you the deck profile for my Mist Valleys. Alright, so what's really cool about this deck is you can actually go into the Infinite Loop without using Union Carrier, since it's banned, and without using Hopperfrax, however you call it. But so first, you got your Mist Valley Apex Avian. Only run one because it is good by itself. It works with the effect to every time an effect is activated, bounce back a Mist Valley card and negate it, which is why I run 3 copies of Mist Valley Thunderbird. Now, yes, that is, you guys are probably only used to seeing probably one in a deck, but Mist Valley Thunderbird is amazing in this deck because since it is a Mist Valley card, everything in this deck has most of the effect of bouncing back to the hand to be able to activate something, either increase attack power, special summon it like Mist Valley Thunderbird here, or being able to, if you have to attack, being able to bounce back a card to the hand. And this makes it so much easier because if you have Divine Wind in Mist Valley, you can search for this card. If something goes back, special summon it, and then go into your Smorg. Smorg at the end phase of the turn can special summon Apex Avian, and there you go. You've got your Infinite Loop without having to go into Union Carrier or Hapifrax. And this guy is just amazing because he works with the deck so well. Alright, 3 copies of Mist Valley Falcon. Mist Valley Falcon is awesome because every time he attacks, you have to bounce back a card to your hand. And what makes this really good is later in the spells that I'm going to show you that just makes this card probably one of the MVPs of this deck. And plus, since he's a 2000 beater, I mean, it's hard to get over him. Alright, and you've got Miss Condor. This works really well because if you bounce back a Mist Valley card to your hand, you can special summon this and attack becomes 1700, but you use this mostly for the Divine Wind of Mist Valley. And I love Mist Valley also because it reminds me of more of like a Native American archetype, which I'm a really big fan since I love the Winged Beast archetype. It just is so tribal. It feels like I'm playing an actual tribal deck because it reminds me of Totems, Mist Valley. It feels really good to be able to play it just for that reason, just because I love Native American lore as well as Aztec lore and everything. So it works really well with it, and it's like they worked really hard on the actual lore of Mist Valley, and really you could tell it in the set what they were going for, what kind of different types that they were kind of drawing inspiration from. So then we've got 3 copies of Mist Valley Shaman. Mist Valley Shaman, you pop a card back to your hand, bounce back a card back to your hand to increase the attack by 1700, and it's a level 3 tuner. You can knock that down to 2 if you choose. I'm just running the 3 in there because since it's the Mist Valley card. And your own personal Cyber Dragon. Look at this cute little guy, cock-a-doodle-doo. So if you control a monster, or if you control no monsters on the field, you can special summon this guy from your hand, and he becomes a level 3. If your opponent controls a monster, controls a monster and you have no cards, you control no cards, so if it's like you're going second, you can special summon this card from your hand and it becomes a level 4. So this is really, really good for tuning to go into synchros because it is a tuner, and it can become either a level 3 or level 4 depending on the stipulation, and it's really, really good, or situation. Alright, 1 copy of Miss Genix Alley Birdman. Believe it or not, this guy does count as a wind type because in his effect, he can become a wind. He's a wind and a dark type at the exact same time. Also, he searches for, if this card is in your hand, you can turn a face-up monster you control, especially on this card, but banish it. So it's another good way to bounce back like Miss Condor. And he does work with the Mist Valley, Divine Wind and Mist Valley, because he does technically count as a wind type. And he works really, really well with this deck. I also have Genix Controller in here for that reason, because I run the some of the Genix cards. But I'll show you about that in a second. Then you've got 3 copies of Red-Haired Hasty Horse. This is a really good tech card in this deck. Basically what it does is if in a column, I'm going to remove this to the side for a second. In a column, if there's no cards in a column, so say like you place it in column 1, like right here or something, and you have no cards right here, and your opponent has no cards right over there or anything, then you can special summon this from your hand. And that makes it it's a really, really good way to special summon and just really speed up the deck. Also, once per turn, if another card is placed, obviously, and then you can have this card's attack for the rest of the turn, and it can attack directly. So if you want to, you can make it a 1,000 and ram into your opponent directly for 1,000. But also what you're going to mainly do is make sure that they don't have anything in your column, you don't have any column, and they don't have anything in their column. So it's like a first turn card, really, really good. And it just really speeds up the deck and gives that deck that extra speed that you was sorely lacking. Then I got 3 copies of Reborn Tengu. Now, Reborn Tengu is great for this deck because when it's removed from the field in any way, removed in any way, you can special summon another one from your deck. So, you lose it, you get another one, and it's really good to keep swarming the field and going into your plays. And then, last but not least, for the wind monsters, obviously 1 Barrier Stash of the Storm ones. This is going to be your, obviously, your field lock. And then for the last of the monsters, 2 Genix controllers. You do not have to run this. This is just my personal preference since I'm running Genix Alley Birdman and I am running some of the Genix Alleys in the extra deck. I'm using the Genix controller to be able to do it. And like I said, you don't have to run it. You can run whatever normal monsters you want in this deck. Alright, so it's time for the spells and traps. That was it for the monsters, guys. We've got 2 copies of Divine Wind. This is a dead draw. You don't want to have this in... You don't want to have more than 1 in your hand, so that's why I only have 2 in here. Plus, I have other ways to bring it out, which I will show you in a bit. But basically, if a wind monster, face of wind monster, bounces back to the hand, you can special summon a level 4 level 1 monster from your deck. So what makes that really, really useful is one of the combos to get that infinite loop out is you can use this, search, and special summon Mist Valley Thunderbird. And then, if you have 3 other monsters on the field, you can go into your Smorg, Bird of Sovereignty, and then special summon Apex Avian at the end phase of the turn, and then that will start the loop, which makes it really, really useful. Alright, and then just 1 Terraforming, just to search out for your Divine Wind and Mist Valley. And then 3 copies of Unexpected Die. Now, this is what you're going to use to special summon your Genix controller if you control no monsters, and it's the start of your turn. Genix controller can be special summon, and then you can continue with your plays. You can either use that as a synchro, or you can use that and bounce that back, which is really, really useful. Now, these next 2 tech cards this is what makes the deck so much fun to play with. 3 copies of Big Bang Shot. Now, this was one of the tech cards that I actually originally had in my older Mist Valley deck. I just didn't run 3 of them because it was hard to get on the field. But with this deck, it makes it a lot easier. So, with Mist Valley Thunderbird, or Mist Valley Falcon, when it attacks, you have to send a card back to your hand. Now, when Big Bang Shot, what you want to do is you want to give this to your opponent, equip it to their monster, and then when you attack with Mist Valley Falcon, bounce back Big Bang Shot, and that monster that they have is removed from the field. So it's an easy way to be able to remove them from the field, just like that, and you can go into an attack directly. That is why I run 3 in this deck, because you wanted to see this card if you have Mist Valley Falcon. And Mist Valley Falcon with Divine Wind is so easy to bring out in this deck, it's not even funny. So that is not definitely a problem for you if you're playing with this deck. And it's something that they're not going to see coming, because they're going to be like, oh, you're completely getting rid of all my monsters every single time, because you can keep equipping it when it attacks, and then, you know, next turn you can equip another monster if they have it, attack, send it back. Alright, this is actually laughable. Please do not run away from this. But 3 Swords of Revealing Light. Yes, that is ridiculous. I don't know anybody now anymore that plays Swords of Revealing Light, and yes, I am going to get a haul of this eventually. But basically, Swords of Revealing Light in this deck with Mist Valley Falcon can potentially become an infinite swords, because you bounce back Swords of Revealing Light when you attack with this, and you can play it again main phase 2, again main phase 2, after that. I mean, and so potentially this thing does not stay off the field for long, and you can go into and make it if you have the right cards in your hand to where they cannot attack you at all the entire game, which gets really, really annoying, especially if you're the one playing against it. 1 copy of Monster Reborn to be able to bring back your monsters. And then last but not least, just for the traps, I run 1 Metaverse. This is just how you activate or search for your Divine Wind and Mist Valley. Once again, you don't want to have Divine Wind and Mist Valley to more than 1 in your opening hand, and because if you do, it ends up being a dead draw and it clogs your hand up horribly. And there's no way for you to discard it, sadly. So that's why I only have 2 instead of 3, because even though it is like the essence of the deck, it works. It's the main reason the deck is so fast. You don't want to see more than 1 in your hand. Alright, that's it for the monsters and main deck, guys. Let's move on to the extra deck. Now, this is optional. There is only the problem with Mist Valley was, other than this and Mist Worm, there really was no other synchro or extra deck support for the Mist Valleys. So sadly, this is all that they had other than Mist Worm. And Mist Valley Thunderbird actually potentially is really, really good, because it can increase the attack by 3100 by bouncing a monster back to the hand. So once again, it's like Mist Valley Falcon. You can, instead of having to attack to bounce back a card, you can do it immediately when you synchro summon for this card. And this guy is great because he becomes a 3100, and then he can get through your opponent. I run 3. You do not have to run 3 at all. I run 3 because I'm showing support in my love for the Mist Valley archetype, considering they don't really have any other extra deck cards. Maybe one day, but if Konami hasn't made them by now, chances are they're not going to make them. Alright, this is another tech card. This is totally optional. 2 Windmill Gen X. This is the reason I have the Gen X in here. It gains 300 attack for each face down spell or trap on the field. So if your opponent plays a lot of back row, it increases it. And then you can send a card from your hand to the graveyard to destroy a face down spell or trap. So this can get rid of like their Solemn Strike, Solemn Warning, Solemn Judgment, whatever, or any of their pesky back row or any of their cards if they have not activated them yet. Once again, that is completely optional. You do not have to play that if you don't want to. I'm just doing it because I wanted to incorporate it, and since this is more of a budget-friendly channel. Alright, 1 copy of Gen X Alley Triarm. This actually has a really good effect based off of the attribute that was used as a synchro material. So obviously Wind, send 1 random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard. This can become potentially a delinquent duo. 1 copy of Vermilion Dragon Mech. Instead of the Mist Worm, I'm choosing to do this one because you only have to have 2 monsters instead of the 3 for it. And this can, if you remove a tuner card from the graveyard, you can destroy 1 monster or spell or trap on the field. So it's a really good way to pop back rows. Then you get 1 Castel. 1 Castel is used to bounce stuff back to the hand. You can either switch it. You can either switch the monster defense position, face down defense position, or you can remove 2 of them to be able to bounce the card back. Alright. Then you got Lightning Chidori. This is good because this is a really good tech card for this deck. Once you turn, you can attach an XYZ material, then target a face-up card your opponent controls and turn it to the top of the deck. So this is a good way to get, if they've got Zeus or something, this can send it right back, or if they have anything, this is a good way to be able to send it right back. Then Ice Beast Aerofine, because you've got 2 level 4 Winged Beast type monsters. Very easy to do in this deck. This shuts off everything on your opponent's side of the field, and it increases attack by 300 for every monster on the field, or each face-up card currently on the field. I apologize. Then you've got one copy of S'more Bird of Sovereignty. This is going to be used for your infinite play. It's very easy to bring this out because it only requires 3 monsters, and you can easily get 4 in this deck. And then you've got one copy of Nightmare Phoenix. You can draw a card and target a spell or trap. This destroys spells and traps on the field, and you get to draw. Nightmare Unicorn. Discard blast, sorry. You can discard a card, target a card on the field, and return to the deck, so that bounces back. And then, last but not least, 2 copies of Greatfly. This is just personal, because since this is an entire wind deck, I'm choosing to stick with that theme. And also, when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add a monster that's 1500 less attack from your deck to your hand. So it's another good way to be able to bring that out. So if I haven't explained it yet, Nightmare Phoenix destroys spells and traps, and the Nightmare Unicorn spins stuff back to the hand. Alright? So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed seeing this. This was a lot of fun, and I'm not trying to copy anybody. By no means. I actually saw a video of this about a week or so ago and realized, hey, you know what? I didn't know that you could make Mist Valleys competitive or actually make them interesting and actually make them fun again. So I pulled out a lot of my decks. I pulled out a lot of my cards because I already had basically 90% of this deck minus like the Cock-a-doodle-doo and the red-haired hasty horse, and just made the deck out of it. So you do not have to run some of the tech cards in the extra deck. You can run your Zeuses, you can run all your other tech cards if you want. That's just personal opinion, because I'm going to be honest, I'm a budget player. I'm going to look for a deck that's just more pure, that can be competitive. If you want to have hand traps, you can totally have a hand trap suit, even though hand traps will slow you down in this deck because of the reason you want to be able to have as many monsters in your hand and make sure they're all Mist Valley to be able to start popping and bouncing back and being able to activate their effects. That's one thing I also wanted to discuss, actually, is that I've seen a lot of videos and I've seen a lot of people and stuff always talk about Zeus or Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and they put them in every single deck that you see. And yeah, you can do that, but all in all, it's not really the best strategy or the best course. You don't have to. Just because you don't have those, you're not able to access them, because hey, they're like $80 to $100 for them, and I'm sorry, I'm not paying that much for a card. That's easily something I can put together for a booster box easily and still have, have money left over. But yeah, it all depends on what you want to play as a duelist. And this deck is a lot of fun because of it being pure and because it's a Mist Valley, and that it's actually able to be fast again without, going too crazy and being too expensive. Alright, so with that, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'm going to be pre-ordering the Dawn of Majesty because I actually have a Stardust deck. It's a Stardust Warrior deck. It's a junk deck with a lot of the Stardust support, and I am so excited to be able to actually be buying that and opening it. I don't know if I'm going to be doing it on the channel or not. I may just do it with my wife by myself. I don't know. If you want to see it, you can always post a comment, if you want to see it or not. So, and if I don't see any, I'll probably just end up doing it by myself with, my wife, because it's going to have the new Dresna archetype or Dressed archetype, and she's really excited about that, and I'm just excited to be able to build a Stardust deck with her, upgrade it, because we actually have one, and to be able to actually upgrade it and make it even better than you can, because Stardust is one of our favorite synchro monsters. So alright, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and enough rambling. I'll see you guys next time. Later.